Picture this. After months of planning, early mornings, and countless hours preparing for opening day, the moment you've dreamed about finally arrives. A massive whitetail buck steps into a narrow opening just 180 yards away. You settle your breathing, squeeze the trigger, and watch the deer stumble before disappearing into the timber. Convinced you've made the perfect shot, you begin tracking, only to spend the next 3 hours following a fading blood trail that eventually vanishes. The woods fall silent, the light disappears, and the buck is never found. Moments like that stay with hunters forever. Most people blame the scope, the bullet, or even the rifle itself. Very few stop to ask a far more uncomfortable question. What if the mistake was made months earlier when the cartridge was chosen? The hunting industry constantly encourages us to buy more velocity, more energy, and more power. But experienced hunters know the woods reward something entirely different. They reward good decisions and fewer compromises. Surprisingly, the most powerful cartridge doesn't always win. And neither does the newest design dominating YouTube reviews. In fact, one cartridge introduced back in the 1950s continues to outperform many modern competitors where it matters most. Today on Firepower, we're uncovering why the cartridge that refuses to chase trends is still the one thousands of experienced hunters trust when one shot has to end the hunt. Before we rank a single cartridge, we need to answer a much more important question known that most hunters never ask. Walk into any gun store or browse hunting forums online, and you'll hear the same debate repeated over and over. Which cartridge is the best? But that's the wrong place to start. The better question is, which cartridge is best for the way I actually hunt? Too many buying decisions are shaped by flashy marketing campaigns, YouTube reviews chasing the latest trend, impressive ballistic charts, advice from the gun counter, or endless internet arguments between people with completely different hunting experiences. None of those can tell you what works in your woods, on your mountains, or during your season. A smart choice begins with understanding the animal. You're hunting, the terrain you'll be walking, the realistic distances you'll be shooting, your personal tolerance for recoil, and how often you can realistically afford to practice. Those factors determine success far more than a few extra feet per second or another 100 foot-pounds of energy. The smartest hunters don't begin with a ballistic chart, they begin with the hunt itself, because the smartest purchase always starts with your mission, not with someone else's opinion. Every cartridge advertisement loves to highlight the same numbers: muzzle velocity, kinetic energy, bullet drop, and ballistic coefficient. Those figures certainly matter, but they only describe what happens under perfect conditions. Hunting almost never takes place under perfect conditions. A ballistic chart cannot measure the fatigue in your shoulders after climbing a mountain before sunrise. It cannot account for the adrenaline that makes your heart race when the biggest buck of your life suddenly steps into view. It doesn't know whether you're shooting from an awkward kneeling position, leaning against a tree, or balancing on uneven ground. It cannot predict freezing rain, stiff crosswinds, numb fingers, or an animal that refuses to stand still for more than a few seconds. Most importantly, it tells you nothing about what happens after the shot. Can you recover from recoil quickly enough for a second shot if it's needed? Can you stay calm when everything happens at once? Those are the questions that determine success in the field. The hunt doesn't end when the trigger breaks, it begins there. A cartridge is judged not by impressive numbers on paper, but by how it performs when real hunters face real pressure. After all, paper never panics, hunters do. Coming in at number 5 is the 6.5 Creedmoor, a cartridge that has become one of the most talked about names in modern hunting. Its popularity didn't happen by accident. Mild recoil allows shooters to stay on target, practice longer without fatigue, and develop confidence more quickly than many larger cartridges. Combined with excellent inherent accuracy and Today's high-performance hunting bullets, the 6.5 Creedmoor is capable of remarkable precision in the hands of a skilled marksman. For deer-sized game and many realistic hunting situations, it performs exceptionally well. But this is also where expectations often become unrealistic. As its reputation grew, many hunters began treating it as the perfect solution for every hunt, regardless of animal size or conditions. In reality, heavier game demands careful bullet selection, disciplined shot placement, and sufficient impact velocity to ensure reliable expansion. Those are factors no cartridge can ignore. The 6.5 Creedmoor is not a miracle round, nor is it a weak one. It is simply a highly efficient cartridge designed to excel within its intended role. The problem was never its capability, was the belief that it had no limits. Great cartridges still have trade-offs, and understanding those limits is what separates experienced hunters from internet debates. Hype creates impossible standards, while realistic expectations create successful hunts. Taking the number 4 spot is the .270 Winchester, a cartridge that has earned its reputation through decades of consistent performance rather than marketing hype. It shines where hunting often becomes most challenging wide-open country, rolling hills and mountain terrain where shots may stretch farther than expected. Its relatively flat trajectory reduces the need for large holdover corrections at practical hunting distances, giving hunters greater confidence when opportunities appear without warning. Legendary outdoor writer Jack O'Connor helped demonstrate the cartridge's capabilities, but its enduring popularity comes from results in the field, not from history alone. Compared with the 6.5 Creedmoor, the .270 Winchester generally offers higher velocity with similarly streamlined hunting bullets, providing excellent downrange performance and respectable resistance to wind drift. For deer, antelope, and elk-sized game under appropriate conditions, it remains an exceptionally efficient choice. However, every strength comes with a compromise. The .270 lacks the broad selection of very heavy bullet weights available to larger caliber cartridges, making it less adaptable for hunters who regularly pursue the heaviest North American game. That doesn't make it inadequate, it simply means it was optimized for a different mission. .270 Winchester succeeds because it balances speed with practical field performance, not because it tries to do everything. Fast isn't always flexible, and versatility often matters more than velocity alone. At number 3 is the 7mm Remington Magnum, a cartridge that has built an almost legendary reputation among hunters. But instead of asking how powerful it is, let's ask a far more practical question: how much of that performance do most hunters actually use? On paper, the 7mm Rem Mag delivers impressive velocity, excellent energy retention, and the ability to handle demanding hunting situations. Yet for the average hunter, those advantages often come with trade-offs that are easy to overlook. Sharper recoil can make long practice sessions less enjoyable. Premium ammunition is noticeably more expensive, and the higher operating pressures typically result in faster barrel wear than many standard cartridges. None of these factors matter if you only shoot a few rounds each year, but they matter a great deal if you believe practice is the foundation of ethical hunting. The truth is, a cartridge's maximum capability is only valuable when the shooter develops the skill and confidence to use it effectively. Owning more performance doesn't automatically translate into better field results. For many hunters, the limiting factor is no longer the cartridge, it's how often they can afford or are willing to train with it. The most impressive ballistic chart means very little if recoil discourages regular practice. The cartridge you avoid practicing with eventually avoids helping you when the moment of truth finally arrives. Taking the number 2 spot is the 3006 Springfield, a cartridge that has remained relevant not because it dominates one category, but because it refuses to fall behind in any of them. Its greatest advantage is versatility, with factory loads available from lightweight 125-grain bullets all the way to heavy 220-grain options. The 3006 can be adapted for nearly every North American game animal, from whitetail deer to elk, moose, and large black bears. It is supported by virtually every major ammunition manufacturer, making quality hunting loads easy to find whether you prefer traditional soft points, bonded bullets, monolithic copper projectiles, or premium long-range designs. Compared with the .308 Winchester, the .30006 offers a little more velocity and greater flexibility with heavier bullets, giving hunters extra confidence when pursuing larger game. The trade-off is equally clear: that additional performance comes with slightly more recoil, which may slow follow-up shots and make extended practice sessions more demanding for some shooters. Even so, the Clone 3006 continues to earn its reputation by adapting to almost any hunting situation without requiring major compromises. It may not be the absolute leader in recoil, speed, or efficiency, but when conditions change and the hunt becomes unpredictable, it remains one of the safest choices a hunter can make. It wins by doing everything well, proving that consistency is often more valuable than specialization. Claiming the number 1 spot is the .308 Winchester, not because it produces the highest velocity or the greatest energy, but because it gives hunters something far more valuable: confidence. Every successful hunt depends on placing the first shot exactly where it belongs, and the .308 makes that easier by combining manageable recoil with excellent practical accuracy. Because it is comfortable to shoot, most hunters are willing to practice more often, and that regular practice builds consistency under pressure. Factory ammunition is widely available in an enormous variety of hunting and match loads, and its reasonable cost allows shooters to spend more time on the range without exhausting their budget. Just as importantly, the cartridge's moderate recoil helps hunters recover their sight picture quickly, making fast and accurate follow-up shots far more achievable than with many larger magnums. That balance is what separates the .308 from cartridges that offer more raw performance but demand greater compromises in return. The truth is simple: practice creates confidence. Confidence creates clean and ethical kills, and confidence is earned long before opening day arrives. When everything is on the line, hunters don't rely on impressive specifications, rely on the cartridge they know they can shoot well. The most valuable feature isn't power, it's trust. Now consider 2 hunters standing on the same ridge with the same opportunity. One carries a powerful Magnum rifle, but only fires about 100 rounds a year because ammunition is expensive and heavy recoil makes practice less enjoyable. The other carries a 308 Winchester and shoots nearly 1,000 rounds every year, building confidence through repetition instead of relying on extra horsepower. When the moment of truth arrives, who is more likely to make the clean, ethical shot? For most hunters, the answer has very little to do with muzzle velocity and everything to do with familiarity. Repetition builds muscle memory, improves judgment under pressure, and turns good habits into instinct. A capable cartridge becomes even more effective in the hands of a skilled shooter, while even the most advanced cartridge cannot compensate for limited practice. Experience magnifies performance in ways no specification sheet ever can. Skill multiplies cartridge performance. Marketing doesn't. By now, one thing should be clear. There is no perfect cartridge for every hunter because there is no single hunt that represents every situation. The smartest approach is to build your cartridge choice around your mission instead of trying to make one cartridge fit every possible scenario. If whitetail deer are your primary game, the 308 Winchester offers an outstanding balance of accuracy, recoil, and affordability. If you spend your seasons hunting wide-open country where longer shots are common, the C-270 Winchester remains a superb choice. Hunters who prioritize precision and minimal recoil may find the 6.5 Creedmoor fits their needs perfectly. For elk and hunters who regularly move between different types of terrain, the .3006 Springfield delivers exceptional versatility. And if your hunting frequently demands maximum performance at extended distances, the 7mm Remington Magnum begins to make more sense. The key is to ignore ego, marketing trends, and YouTube debates. Instead, choose the cartridge that best matches your game, your environment, and your abilities. Build your rifle around your mission, not your image. Before you spend another dollar on a new hunting cartridge, it's worth asking whether you're solving a real problem or simply buying into a popular idea. One of the biggest mistakes hunters make is buying recoil they don't actually need, believing that more kick automatically means better performance. Others become obsessed with chasing higher velocity, assuming faster bullets always produce better results in the field. Then, there's the influence of marketing and social media, where every new cartridge is presented as a revolutionary breakthrough. In the excitement, practical considerations often get ignored. Ammunition cost determines how much you'll practice. Practice determines your confidence, and confidence is what allows you to make clean, ethical shots when the pressure is real. A cartridge that looks incredible on paper but spends most of the year sitting in the safe because it's too expensive or unpleasant to shoot isn't helping anyone. The best purchase isn't the one with the most impressive specification sets, the one you'll train with consistently until it feels like an extension of yourself. Hunters usually regret the cartridge after carrying it through an entire season, not the day they bought it. As we've worked through this list, one lesson has become impossible to ignore. Technology will continue to evolve. New cartridges will be introduced, advertising campaigns will promise revolutionary performance, and internet debates will declare a different ultimate hunting round every season. But the animals we hunt haven't changed. A whitetail still reacts to a well-placed shot the same way it did decades ago. An elk still demands good judgment, patience, and respect. No amount of extra velocity can replace sound decision-making, and no marketing campaign can substitute for hours spent practicing behind your rifle. In the end, the best hunting cartridge isn't the one that dominates a ballistic chart or wins the loudest online argument. It's the one that gives you complete confidence when the pressure is real, allowing you to place a clean, ethical shot when it matters most. Good judgment, consistent practice, and precise shot placement have always been the foundations of successful hunting, and they always will be. Those principles never become obsolete because they aren't tied to technology, they're tied to the hunter. That brings us to one final question, and am genuinely interested in hearing your answer. If you could hunt every North American game animal with only one cartridge for the next 10 years, which would you choose? And more importantly, what real hunting experience convinced you that it was the right choice? Share your successes, your mistakes, and the lessons you've learned in the comments below. Those real-world experiences are often more valuable than any ballistic chart or marketing brochure. If you enjoyed this breakdown, leave a like if you believe confidence matters more than horsepower, and subscribe to Firepower for honest, experience-driven firearm and hunting analysis. And don't miss next week's episode, where we'll expose 5 legendary hunting cartridges that are quietly disappearing and answer the question of whether they still deserve a place in your rifle today.